Hello and welcome to all of you who are joining us today for our webinar. My name is Ro and I am part of Knack's customer success team. If you are having problems viewing this video or hearing me, not to worry, there will be a recording of this webinar available on our website under past videos. Now, before I get into the details of the webinar, I want to give you a brief overview of what Knack is. Knack is a powerful online database that provides a secure location for you to collect and manage all of your data. We have a few components to our software. In the building process, you'll hear me throughout this webinar refer to the builder and the live application or live app. The builder is where all of your data is defined and stored. This includes the Data tab and a Pages tab. The Data tab is where you define your data, and this is also where your data is stored. The Pages tab is where you design how your users will interact with your data using tools like forms, reports, maps, and more. You can then access your app through the live application, where users can view and update their data that you have shared with them. Once you have defined your data and designed your app, you have a couple of options for sharing your live application. You can generate a snippet of code and embed in your website, or you can simply have users access your live application at your personalized Knack URL. So what will we be going through in this webinar? We are going to take a tour of the Inventory Manager template app. We're going to build out a portion of this app showing you how to build your objects out to track current inventory levels for products. We're also going to show you how to create alerts for users when inventory levels fall below minimum required levels. And we'll also begin looking at reports and show you how to create a report in Knack. We will also learn how this use case can be applied to other types of similar workflows. So some good stuff coming up. To wrap up the webinar, I'll be taking questions, so feel free to leave your questions in the Q&A section here on the right. If we have a lot of questions, I may not get to all of them today. However, I will do my best to answer as many as I can with whatever time we have left. We will also be sending out a survey afterwards, so feel free to share any additional questions you have there or reach out to us at team@knack.com. So let's get started. Now, I will say before we get into looking at the inventory management template app here, you can go to knack.com, head to the template menu item, and do a quick search for inventory, and that will pull up our Inventory Manager template app. And you can go see additional details on the Inventory Manager app and install the app here from this link. So that's one way for you to install this app and see how it is built. So let's head back over here to our inventory management app. Okay, so hopefully you are coming to this webinar. You've got some experience with Knack, but you're looking to build out an inventory manager type workflows where you're managing your products and your inventory and you're keeping information up to date and in real time. So let's take a look here and do a brief kind of overview demo of the inventory management app. So up here at the top, you'll see we've got our page menu, we have a menu view, and then we have a table of products. Within our table of products, you'll see we have a tabular view where we can see all of our products, and then we can also look to see what products need to be reordered. On the table specifically, we can see the product name, we can see starting inventory, what's been received, what's been shipped, what's on hand, what's our minimum requirement, and what needs to be ordered. And we also have a link to view more details. So let's go ahead and add a product. Okay, we're going to add Acme laptops, part number ACME, or let's just do AM1001. We'll do a starting inventory of 20, and we'll say a minimum requirement we need to have at least 5 on hand. And let's go ahead and hit submit. Now when we go back to our current table, our current inventory page, we can see our new product here added here at the top. We don't have any data entered yet for received and shipped, but we've got 20 on hand and we have the minimum requirement here of 5. Let's go ahead and review the menu items here, and as we go along we'll add data, or we'll add new records so that we can see how this is updated in real time. Okay, so the next menu item you'll see is the incoming purchases. So this is where we can add purchases or products that we have received in the system. So let's go ahead and get started with that. We're going to choose our supplier. Acme Tech Supply seems to make sense in this case. We're going to receive 10 of these, and then we'll go ahead and choose our Acme laptops, and we'll set it for today's date, and we'll hit submit. Now if we go back to our incoming purchases, we're going to see on our list here that new purchase order that we just put into the system. And we've got this lovely link here that allows us to look at details on that incoming purchase. So moving right along, we're going to head over to our outgoing orders. Well, but first, before I do that, let's go back to our current inventory so we can see that this has been updated. We now can see we've got a starting inventory of 20, we received 10 in, we've got 30 on hand, and remember, we don't want to drop below this 5, so we don't really need to reorder anything because we've got enough on hand. So what would happen if we placed an outgoing order that dropped us below the minimum? So let's go ahead into the system and order 26 of them. So let's head over to our order. We'll use Steve here. And we'll do a number 26. That should drop us below. And we'll order our Acme laptops. We'll hit submit. Go back to my orders page here, and I can see this purchase, this outgoing order going out for Steve. And quickly, if I click on this view link here, I'm going to be able to see details about that. So I'm going to head back. But now if we head over to our current inventory tab, you're going to see we've got our Acme laptops, the information that was just entered. We had that shipment that went out of 26, and we've got 4 on hand. That drops us below our minimum required. We now have a notification here telling us that, hey, you need to reorder this. So really cool. And again, if I click on the need to reorder, I'm going to see in my table here that I've got 3 that need to be reordered that are below the minimum required. So good stuff. And then again, just to show you, you should already be comfortable with Knack at this point, that you know how to add these detail links, but I think they're always cool to show that you can look at a specific product and then you can see the incoming and outgoing orders. So we're able to see what we would call these child records that are connected to the parent record, which is the product. We're able to see the incoming purchases and outgoing orders, and we're able to do things on the page like edit the product. We can add a purchase, and we can also add an order. So cool stuff that you can do. And again, if you're using our inventory management demo app or manager demo or template app, this will be built in for you, and then you can also customize on top of that. So with that said, I believe that wraps up the demo portion of the live application. The next part that we're going to do is we're going to build out a portion of this. Some of the app has already been built. We're only going to work through the portions of how do you set up the starting inventory and the received and shipped. How do you manage that? How do you track that? So we're going to show you how that's set up in the builder and walk you through that process. Okay, so let's head over to our builder. So we've already got kind of the basics here set up, and we'll walk through it briefly. If you have visited or seen our previous webinars, we show you in the customer portal webinar how to set up your objects, how to set up connections, and also how to start building out pages. So I'm hoping you're familiar with that process. I won't go into too much detail here, but I do want to show you what we do have built out, so that when we do add the portions of the inventory management app that help you do inventory and track inventory real time, it'll make some sense. So what we have here are 3 objects. We've got our products object. Inside the products object, we have a short text field for the name. We've got the part number is another short text field. We have a text formula field, and this is how you can concatenate 2 fields. So if you want to combine 2 fields to show the name, like we concatenate the product label here, we add the name and the part number together to show them both in one field. You would use the text formula field. And then we have a number field that uses starting inventory. So if I were to go look at my records here, you'll see we've got that information in here. This is what that concatenation looks like. So we've got TP link router, and we have the part number, and we just combine those 2 fields there. And then each of these records has test data in them. So just a quick look behind the scenes on the products tab. And again, if we were to click on this text formula field, you'll see what that looks like there. And then our starting inventory is a number field. Now let's take a look at our purchases object. This is all of any purchases, so incoming inventory that's coming in. We have a multiple choice field here to manage our suppliers. We then have a connection field that takes us back to the product. So this is important to make sure that you have set up. We need to be able to tell the purchase record which product that it needs to be connected to. So think of it in terms of, I'm filling out a form. Let's say we're on our records tab here and I'm filling out a form. I need to be able to select my supplier, but I also needed to tell this record which product it needs to be connected to. So think about connections in that way. When it comes to our inventory manager, we want to have this connection field in our purchases object that goes back to the product, so it's inside it. We then have a number field here that is going to collect the quantity or the amount that is being received. And then we also have a date field. Now I do want to note here, when we look at this number field here, we only have a few options. Now the minute we add a connection, if we go back to this object that we're connecting to, you'll see you have a ton more options. Well, not a ton, but you've got additional options here to choose from once you've made that connection. And that's really an important thing to note here with connections, is the power in how they work in Knack. Once you set that up, then you have more options available. And we'll go over this in just a second. But I wanted to show you how we have things set up. So we've got our products, we've got our purchases, and now we're looking here at our orders. So this is everything that's going out. So we've got a customer, then again, we have another connection field back to the product. So again, this is letting us assign this record to a product, or associate or relate this record to a product. So again, if we were to look at the form and we're going to add a record, we're going to select a product for it to be connected to. This is very important for this workflow to work in order for us to track inventory. We need to make sure we're relating it back to a product. So then again, we have another number field that's going to manage the information that is shipped, and then we've got a date field. So now that we have our objects set up correctly, we can now do some things. Remember earlier I was telling you about this number field. This is how we're going to set up some of the features that you saw in the live application, like received and shipped. How do we track that? And with the power of connections, we're able to do that. So let's go over how you would set that up. So the first thing we want to do is we want to be able to calculate all of our incoming purchases. How would we do that in Knack? So let's go back to this number field that I was talking about. We want to sum up all of those records that are connected to our product. So what you would do in Knack is you would head over to the sum option that becomes available once we've made that connection, and you'll get some choices here from a drop-down field. We can now sum up our connected records. So every time this product is selected in a record or chosen in a record in our purchases object, it's going to calculate it. So we're going to choose the number received because that's the numbers that we have coming in. And I'm going to name this received. So now we know what's incoming. So I'm going to go ahead and add that. It's just that simple. Because we made the connections between products and purchases, and every time we enter in a purchase record, we're assigning it to a product, we're now able to go into here and sum that up. So we're able to sum up all of the items received. Now we can just repeat this for everything that's shipped. We can click the sum field again, and you saw that we had the option to choose from our orders object because it is also connected to our products object. We can choose to sum up or total the number that is shipped. So I'm going to go ahead and name this shipped and add that field. So now we've got a couple things going. We've got starting inventory. We're now totaling up everything that's been received, and we're now totaling up everything that has been shipped. Okay, so the next thing that we want to do is now we want to total this up. We want to add our starting inventory plus our inventory that's received, and then we want to subtract it from the inventory shipped. This is going to give us our inventory on hand. So in order for this to happen, we can now use our equation field. Because we're collecting all of this information, we can now use the equation field to calculate those fields. So let's go ahead and call this inventory on hand. We'll go ahead and add it. And now I can click into this and edit this further and add in starting inventory. And it actually gives me the option there, so I can click on it. And then I'm going to add that to my received. And then I'm going to subtract my shipped. Now, if you need to do any formatting here, we definitely can set that up here. If we wanted to use period formatting, if we wanted to do some rounding, we definitely can. So I'm going to go ahead and click update this field. And so now I am able to calculate, because I've made these connections, I'm able to sum up my connected records, and now I can use those sums in an equation to give me what my inventory is on hand. All right, so the last two fields that we're going to add is one field to manage the minimum required and another field to manage the status, whether it needs to be reordered or not. So for the minimum required, all we need is just a number field, and we'll name this minimum required. So that's pretty simple. And then the next field that we will add is actually a multiple choice yes, no field, and we'll call this needs reorder. Now, we can add that field, but we need to do some more customization or editing to the settings here. So we can click in the gray area to get into the settings, or we can click on the gear icon to get into the settings. And then we're going to head over to our conditional rules tab. So we're going to do set some conditional rules to automatically set that status based on what our minimum required is based on our inventory on hand. So we're going to look at both of those and then determine whether we need to be a yes for needs to be reordered or a no for we're fine, we don't need to reorder at this time. So we're going to add a conditional rule that says not every record, but whenever your inventory on hand is lower than, and we're going to go ahead and choose a field value, and we're going to choose our field value for the minimum required. So we're going to be looking at that. Whenever our inventory on hand is lower than our minimum required, we are going to want to set this custom value to yes. Now we're not done yet, because we're going to add another rule that basically is going to tell the record what it needs to be otherwise. So when every record period, we're going to have that value just set to no. So we want to make sure that if it's this condition here and it's met, then it's going to be yes. Otherwise, put it as no. Set that value to no. So that is it. We're going to update that record, and you'll see we have this new icon here that just popped up to the right, and this just lets us know that there is a conditional rule setting this field. Okay, so we're almost done here on the data tab. The one last thing that I want to do is to go into my records and my test data and make sure I have my minimum required entered. It won't be useful when I'm testing things out if I don't have this information entered in there, so that I can know when I have hit my minimums for some of the products here. So let's go ahead and add these things in. Okay, great. So now we've got that information in. We can now head over to the Pages tab and start building out our app to show inventory, to allow users to add purchases, to add orders, and then to see that information real time get updated within your app, and then also to create on that table that yellow background highlighting that lets you know, hey, this needs to be reordered. So that'll be the next portion that we'll be working through, is showing you how to build that portion out. All right, so the first thing we talked about was adding a menu view to add a product. So that's real simple. We'll head here to our More button and we'll go ahead and click the menu. And you'll see I have a menu started, but I need to add a link here that's going to allow me to add a product. So I'm going to click on that so I can go into the settings. I'm going to click Add a New Page. I'm going to select an object. I'm going to select my products object. And I just want to add a form. So I don't need these top two options. I just want a form to add a new product. I'm going to go click Continue and hit Add New Page, and that's it. So now I have my menu view that's going to allow me to add a product. So I'm going to click here. This is going to take me to another page. This is actually where my form lives. So on this page is where my form is, and if I wanted to go into the settings and make any updates or changes, I definitely can here. I'm a big fan of redirecting back to my parent page, so I'm going to go ahead and set a redirection. So this will take me back to my home page where I can see my table and see my new product that was added to the table. So I'm going to hit Save Changes. So the next portion of this is we want to build out a table to view the products below our menu button. So I'm going to go back up to my current inventory page. This is my top page, and I've got my menu here. I want to add a table below of products. So I'm going to click Table. My products is selected. I'm going to add a table. I talked about adding a link to view more details. And I also talked about on that details page seeing a list of purchases with a table, and also talked about seeing a list of connected orders with a table. So I can set this up right now, right away. So I'm going to go ahead and add those to my view. So now we have this product table that's been added, and then further I have another page where my product actual details live, and on that product details page I have a table to my purchases and a table that shows me the orders that are associated with that product. So let's go back up, and we're going to head back up to our current inventory page where we can see our table. So now we're going to do some editing here with the table. So again, I can click anywhere in the gray area, or I can come to my settings and I can see my lovely table here. I've got my name and then the part number, or I've got my concatenated field using the text formula field, and I think I probably want to go with that. So I've got my product label here. Then we've got starting inventory, We also see received and shipped. I'd also like to see my inventory on hand, so I'm going to go ahead and add that field, and I can just click here. I also want to see minimum required and needs reordered. So I had to add those to my table, and I'm going to just move this column to the very end there. So we've got this now set up here with our look of our table. When we first get to that page, our current inventory page, we now can see our product with the product label. We can see our starting inventory. We can see what's been received, shipped, inventory on hand, minimum required, needs reordered, and we can view product details. Now if I hit save, and we'll go back into that and go view my live app, and we do have test data in here, I can now see everything that I added, which was a menu button here to add a product. And then I've got my table here that allows me to look at all my products here, as well as any pertinent information that's required, which is received, shipped, inventory on hand, minimum required, whether it needs reordered, and I've got my view details link. So very cool. That's rapidly set up. We're almost done here with our app, and it took us about 5 minutes. So let's go back to the builder and let's start customizing this table out even more. Let's add that feature or that display that allows us to see if we need to reorder something right away. Okay, moving back to our table here with our products, we're going to go into the settings, and we're going to head over to our needs reordered column. Now you'll notice when I hover over these fields, I have an option to either remove the field from the view, which is delete this column, or I can edit this column. I'm going to click on the pencil icon. That's going to allow me to edit this column. Now I've got some tabs up here. I'm going to go to my display rules tab, and this is where I can set some rules based on values that are in that record, which is really cool here. So we're looking at the needs reordered field, and we want to set some sort of alert that lets us know that this product needs to be reordered. So we're going to go ahead and look at our needs reordered, and this is perfect. If it is set to yes, we want to then show some things. Maybe we want to display a warning icon. So we're going to go ahead and choose our warning icon, and maybe we want to set that to a specific color. Make it maybe a little dark. And then we want to maybe highlight the background of our cell so we can see it more clearly on our table. We'll do that nice yellow color there. Maybe we'll make this a little bit more. There we go. So now we can set this and you can customize it, and you'll notice that you've got a couple of different options here. You can do some bolding using text style and things like that. You can hide values. There's lots of things you can do, so I encourage you to play around with these and see what you can do when you're building out your app. But this is a great way to kind of alert you based on a status. So now we know if this needs reordered is yes, this is how it'll behave. It'll display this icon in this color, and it'll set the background to this yellow, bright yellow. So we'll go and hit save. And we won't see that here necessarily in the previews, but it'll definitely be there for us in our live app. The other thing that we saw on our table here, if we go back and look at the demo, we saw our all products and we saw our needs reordered. So we want to be able to set these tabs here. So how would we do that in our app here? You can do that from the filter menu here. Now the filtering, again, this is allowing you to filter your records in the live application, or allows the user to do some filtering. We want to create that menu, so we're going to use that filter menu, the filter menu option. So we're going to do all products, and could be anything here, but we'll just say the name field is not blank, and that'll just show us all the products. Then we also want to do needs to reorder. And this one is an easy one. We can just say needs reorder is yes. So that's it. That's how we're going to create that tab view. If we come up here, everything looks good. So now we're going to hit save. So again, if we were to review our live app to see what changes that we've made, you'll now see that we have all products. If we clicked on needs to reorder, there's nothing there, and we have our information here. Now we need to have a way to add records, or to add records that will be calculated. We need to be able to make purchases, and we need to also ship items off. So we need to add some functionality to our app to allow us to do that. So on the home stretch here, let's head back over to the builder and let us add that functionality to our app where we can now add purchases and orders. So we're going to go to actually our product details page, and we're going to set that up from here because we have our table here of purchases and our table here of orders. We're going to do something similar like in our app here, where when we went to the view product page, we had this menu view here where we can edit a product, add a purchase, and add an order. So to set that up, I'm going to head over here and I'm going to add my menu item. And I believe it was right above those tables there. It was just underneath the product details. And I'm going to go into the settings here for my menu, and I'm going to start adding my links. And I believe the first link was a link to edit the product. Now, since we're working from a product details page, we're going to be able to add records associated to that particular product. If we were coming from another page where we were trying to add an incoming purchase or an outgoing order record, it would force us to have to choose the product that we want to do that with. But since we're working from a details page of the actual product item, we can now add products or add purchases and orders that are connected to the products. And you'll know that because we've got this indented here just underneath the products. So this is telling us that if I were to choose the purchase object, I will then be able to add a purchase object connected to the product, and same thing with the orders. Right now, we're just looking to add an option to edit this product. So we're going to select the actual product, and then we'll have an option here to add a form to edit the product, and then actually another link to take us to another details page, which that doesn't make sense why we would do that. So we're going to do the form to edit the product. So we're going to go ahead and click that, and I will name this edit product and add that new page. Now the next page I wanted to add is the add a purchase. So we want to add the incoming inventory. So again, I'm going to click link to a new page. I'm going to select an object. We already saw that our purchases was available. I'm going to select that. And again, we're just looking at forms only. So I'm going to add a form that's going to allow me to add a purchase. That seems like a good name for that page, so I'm going to add that. And I want to add one more menu item that's going to let me add an order. So then I'm going to click on add a new page. So I'm just going to repeat this, the order. I'm going to go ahead and select the form and click continue and add an order. So perfect. We are going to hit save, and now my menu has 3 links that are going to allow me to edit a product, add a purchase, edit my product details, add a purchase, or add an order to that. Now let me close out some tabs here and let's go review this. We're going to do kind of a refresh when we've added things to our app. We can now go view details about the Cisco router, and now we can see our details information here in these lovely links that we added, and our purchases table and our orders table. We've got nothing in there because we don't have any data there yet because we're just building this out, but we can now start doing that. So let's go ahead and add a purchase. Now you'll see we're going to just choose our supplier. We're going to add the numbers received, and then we're going to add our date. So let's say we've received another 10. I hit submit. I go back to my products details page, and you can now see that it has been added to the system, and you'll also see that this has been updated as well. Now, I want to go back here and point something out to you in the inventory manager. When we were adding these pages, and I was telling you about the product details page and adding a form or adding records that are connected to that particular product, if we were to actually go into, let's say, our add purchase form here, so we're on that page and here's our form view, and if I go into the settings, you'll notice that this product field is not included in the form. That is because, again, we're working from the products details page, so when we made that choice at the top to add a record, it's going to add a record directly connected to the product. And the way you know that is by going to your data source tab and looking at this form insert a purchase record connected to the page's product record. So just a heads up pro tip, when you see that field removed, all it is it's assigning it without you having to do it yourself. And again, you can confirm that here when it tells you this form is inserting a purchase record connected to the page's product. So just wanted to show you that. And again, if we were to go back over to our live app here, that's why we're able to add it, and it automatically connects it to this Cisco router product. So now that we've started adding things, we've got a total inventory on hand of 55. Well, let's say we know our minimum required is 15. Well, let's drop our number down below that 15. So let's put in an order for 50. So we're going to add an order. We're going to come up with a name. And we're going to order 50. We're going to submit that. And we're going to go back to our product details. Now, we don't have anything working here on this page, but if we go back to our home page where we had things set up, we can now see our display rules that we set up here. Our needs reordered is now highlighted yellow, and we can see that right away that this product needs to be reordered. And if I come over to the needs reordered, it is my only record in the system that has that. So very cool things that you can do to alert you when your products are down, but are below that minimum required. So this wraps up the demo and the build of the Inventory Manager template app. I'm going to open it up for Q&A, and then I'm also going to share some other possible use cases for this type of workflow, and maybe we will have some time left to go over how to set up a report. Otherwise, thank you for joining me today. Let me know if you've got any additional questions. Feel free to leave that information in the chat next to just to the right here of our conference room or in the Q&A section.